love you, bitch. I ain't gonna never stop loving you, bitch.
Hello, friends. Oh, my microphone is so far away. There we go. Attempted to take a nap. Didn't really take a nap, but I laid down on my couch back here. I was watching stupid videos on YouTube for the last, like, hour and a half. And I had to move my microphone out of the way, because it was in the way. But now we're here. I am a little more rested, but I'm still exhausted. But it's gonna be fine, because we're gonna play some Darkwood, and I'm gonna get scared. Therefore, well, I'm gonna push it away just a little bit. Therefore, I will wake up. Rena, hello, welcome, long time no see, how's it going? I barely remember what happened last time we played Darkwood, because a lot happened, but I'm excited to see what other weird, wild stuff we're gonna experience. Cause yeah, a lot happened last time. I don't know. It's just my hair. It's just what I do. I cut it 2 days ago to stave off of, you know, a mental breakdown, like you do. No, but it was also just extremely uneven, and I needed it fixed. It's still a little asymmetrical, but this time it was intentional. Everything else behind my little tendrils up here is even now, which is great. You know what I did? I also stole a blanket. Right, yeah, we found the village. I put it back! Sometimes you just gotta cut your hair off. Nothing wrong with that, it's gonna grow back. I bet it looks great. Regardless. But yeah, previously on Darkwood, we found the village. We found the secret village. Secret village. Secret village. We got locked in a basement temporarily, and then I killed everyone, like you do. They know that I killed the pig. Whoopsies! We found a chicken lady. We found the lady that she kept in the back shed. I took her sheet, but I put it back. I did put the sheet back. We also met the musician who hangs out at the silo, and he wanted to meet the pretty lady. We got the key, and we gave it to Wolfman instead of the musician, because he was freaking me out a little bit. I did not like him. And then I think that was like all the big stuff. I think that was all the big stuff that happened. Look, I was gonna try to play with like a pillow behind my head today. It's not working. There's not enough space there for me. Yeah. So I don't want to like mess around too much. I just kind of want to get into this because I want to know what's going on. Game. You're supposed to be showing game. There you are. There you are. The baby. The baby? I have forgotten about the baby. In the well! Right! I had forgotten about the baby. The little chomper that was in the well? Was not pleased. Did not like that. I don't know that I want to go back down there and finish him off, though. Just leave him under there. Maybe he'll come out and kill all the villagers for me. So that I don't have to. Yeah, we did a lot last time. Oh my goodness. This is gonna be interesting to say the least. We need to go back to the village because I still need to loot a bunch of stuff there. Because my inventory filled up real fast when we were there last. We also need to... It is morning. Fantastic. We also need to check on the pretty lady. And maybe give Chicken Lady the chicken head? If we want her to be mad at us? Can I go back knowing what I've done? Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, I can. Also, hey Luna, how's it going? I can 100% go back. It's not an issue. I'm not concerned. Okay. Actually, can I show the trader any new items? Realize I've seen a lot of you today already. But how's it going? How's the day been? And I think we did everything as far as setting traps back up, prepping the house for evening is concerned, right? Yeah, I think we're fine. Okay. Oh, I should probably check the generator, make sure it's full. It's fine. Alright. Okay. Our board is fixed. We don't have an extra stick on us, but that should be fine. Because we've got 4 full clips, magazines for the pistol, and we've also got the little scythe. Yeah, we're good. Let's go back to the... You know, before we leave the property, let's look at the map. We need to check out the hunter's house at some point, and I would like to revisit the barn ruins. But we need to go to the village, and maybe also see if the musician will talk to us. Big goal that we probably won't get to today, but might, is we do have that black box, because we had that dream after leveling up again about the church ruins, and I think Wolfman said that there was going to be a key for the box there. We'll need to get the key and then bring it back to him, because he made the box sound extremely ominous, and like we would be ill-prepared to handle it if we opened it on our own. And I trust Wolfman. Hello. Bear trap. Corpse? That's a rag. I don't need it. Where? I've gone the wrong way. I thought I had gone far enough south. Yeah, so lots to do on our to-do list. Much to accomplish. It's gonna be great. We will never want for tasks ever again. Dog! Oh my goodness. Is that a chomper? Sounded awfully gurgly. I think I've mentioned it a couple of times. That is a chomper. Fucking hell. I feel like we are starting to enter endgame territory. I think we'll have like another week or so left to play. But I think we might be nearing the end of the game. Like, properly this time. Because, like, we still have a couple of those houses, or those locked areas that we can visit. Specifically, wedding. And I guess, like, not necessarily the burned house, because that just connects the old woods to the dry meadow. But we still haven't unlocked that. Oh, Wolfman's still gone. That's troublesome. I wonder if we'll find him in the village, just nomming away at the pretty lady. Oh, I'm scared. I figured he would be, like, gone for a day or two, and then he would show back up at his camp, but we wouldn't necessarily see him doing a chomp. But, you know, I should know better. It's true. All the chickens are there. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Where am I? I would like to not be in this bad mushroom forest. Preferably. What are these sounds? Oh! We're probably near the silo, aren't we? Yeah! Okay, so that's the musician kid. You know what, since we're here... let's just go ahead and say hi to him. Oh! Oh, wow. Hold on a second. Oh, look at him. What a boy. Also, is the game loud enough, or do I need to turn it up? I think I might have to turn it up just a smidge. The boy stops playing and lowers his head, avoiding my sight. Could be louder? Okay, cool. We'll try that. By quite a bit. Oof. Oof! It's quieter now just because we're in a chatting menu. His lip is, like, twitching. I hate it. It's so pretty. Could I hold it for a wee moment? Like, clumsily turns the small item in his overgrown hand. My mom likes these. Where did you buy it? If I were big and had the money, I would buy more of these, and maybe she would stop being angry at me? Oh, buddy. Wait, I've shown him all these, haven't I? Sorry, I can't stop looking at him. Oh, this is our doctor. Yes, he's just as brave and good as you are. Right. Yeah. It does kind of sound like it's in a tent on the other side of town for me as well. Is that loud enough? It's a good volume, okay. And now here's the music, now that we're next to it. Still kind of muffled. Oh! Okay. Just a regular dog. It's fine. As per usual, if it is too loud, too quiet, or anything, just let me know. I like to have this game up a little louder than a lot of the other games. Just because so much of the sounds are, you know. Oh no. I have gone too far! You know what? Let me let them just take each other out. Sorry. I like it. I like it in games when enemies can fight each other. I like it in games when enemies that can fuck me up eventually get fucked up. Excuse me. Are we... Do we still have frozen time? I believe we do. Because we got this fuzzy filter over us. How long will it stay? 11:59 though. Can I like walk in this water? I cannot. No, I cannot. This is the bad shed, I believe, isn't it? Oh, please. Yeah, it's still 11:59. So it is... Time is frozen here in the village always. I appreciate that. No, this isn't the house. This is, Jan's house? This is the brother's house. Well, it's 11:59, and it's still 11:59. I think whenever it has this, like, yellowy filter over it... Yeah, it advances a single minute and then just stays there. I think when everything's this, like, muted color, it's... time is standing still, because this is the same kind of color that we get, at home first thing in the morning. Hi, chicken. Okay, I'm gonna keep the doors open. We're gonna talk to the chicken lady in a minute. I do want to check... She's just gone. There's not blood or anything around here either. Weird, I mean, I'm still concerned. Right? It's him hiding under the sheet now. My pretty lady, what big ears you have. All the better to hear your musician kid creep on up. This empty bottle. I don't necessarily want those. We know that eggs do nothing. They're only good for selling. Give me that stuff. Okay, how pissed do you think Chicken Lady's gonna be if I give her the chicken head? All the better to hear your rude comments, little girl. Oh lordy, what curse has fallen upon us? Sweet mother, what devilry. One day Yannick goes missing, the next my sister disappears. Oh lordy, lordy. Mister, have mercy upon me and find her. Mother Mary, I don't know what I'm gonna do without her all by myself. Do we do it? Okay, alright. Jesus almighty, my little darling, what have they done to you? This is a bad sign, mister, a bad sign. What will happen now? Oh. Said the next little hen with an odd little shrug. I wish I could find a fat little bug. Right? Gossip, maybe? No, that's the same bit of gossip she's given us before. Okay. Weird. I wonder... Okay, I guess we'll put... Right? Don't worry, ma'am. I'll figure something out. So we're gonna put Chicken Lady on hold for a little bit while we wait until Wolfman shows back up, I guess. I wonder if tomorrow he'll come back. Could if I had a lockpick? Do I have a lockpick? I do. I have three other lockpicks too. Okay, good. Hello? Okay. Okay. Bread oven. A brick oven used to bake bread. Wait, are these the houses that they burn the bodies in? Well, lucky for us, we got a lockpick. Oh, wow. Okay. That's a lot. Need a key. Do I have? I don't have a key for that. Okay. Well, this was fun. I think I'm gonna go now. I think... Need a key. None of my keys fit. I think they mentioned... Right, bread oven. I had no idea I could jump through windows. Okay, well now I know. I think they mentioned that the doctor was hiding out in his cottage here? Hi, I'm in your house. What are you gonna do about it? Meat grinder? You can keep your pipes. I don't want those. Okay, I like how he's just unbothered over the fact that I have, like, crept into his house and was stealing his stuff. Like, this was fine for him. He was like, that's cool. You do you. Let's go ahead and eat that. Can't keep it on me. I never use the bread anyway. What? Dog meat. Some folks just kind of losing it. Which, valid. What? Hands are killing me. Isaac, it's your turn now. Oh, this is them trying to like cut their way out of the forest. I remember them mentioning that. And how it just doesn't seem to really matter because the forest is just constantly growing back. Yikes, what a fucking existence. Mushrooms. Give me the goop. Give me the goop. Give me the goop. Goopy goop goop. I don't know if there's anything else here for me. There's the pig. Yeah, I think that's everything here at the village for now. So I guess at this point it's just a matter of like waiting it out until the wolf shows back up. And then seeing what he has to say about the lady? The pretty lady? Unless... what is over here? It's a dead end. The other thing that we could do... thinking. Contemplating. I already have too many ropes! That sounds wrong. Oh, right. We haven't figured out what the code for this is. I don't know. I don't know. Okay, so we have checked in. Pig. We checked in with the musician. He had nothing to say. We've checked in with Chicken Lady. She also didn't really have anything to say. I think that, like I said, I think that kind of just closes this chapter for now until we can talk to the Wolfman again. And who knows when he's gonna show back up. I imagine it'll probably be tomorrow. But who knows? We need to go back to the safe house, empty out our inventory, and maybe, depending on the time, go back to the barn ruins. I do want to find... I want to figure out where Wolfman's hideout is, right? Since we have his key, I'm still extremely concerned that his hideout is the barn ruins. But maybe we'll find out. Not just with the key situation, because what if, assuming he's the one who owns the... Damn it. Who, does like to stuff a body or two. Assuming that's him, maybe he's stuffed the pretty lady. We don't know. Maybe that's a thing he's done. Maybe we'll get to see her. it's not gonna be great. I'm not excited about it. Yeah, I don't know that there's... Because at this point, it's just making our way to the chapel, right? Because he's not back. Buddy's not back. The house that is labeled Creepy House? I don't believe so. We haven't tried since the first time that we ran into it, I think. So that is an option as well. I will... It might be a little closer than... Or it's more of a straight shot from our house to the creepy house than it is to the barn ruins, so maybe we'll go to the creepy house first? Again, it kind of just depends on the time of day once we've emptied out our inventory. I would go explore it now, but I don't want to go in with 0 inventory space. But it's not terribly far from the safe house. So we could go check, we can go check out the creepy house. There's so much to look at, is the thing. Like, I remember playing before Fruity and I realized that we could bust down a door. Oh no. Yeah, before we realized that we could break a door down, we explored and there was a lot to look at, but we were both kind of just like, okay, well, I've seen everything. So what more is there to do? But like, now that we've like gotten to all sorts of different places now, it's wild how much there is to do and how much there is to explore. That's one of the things that I've like really been enjoying about this game, is the fact that it's like, even with how small, realistically how small the map is, my god, there is so much to do and look at and attempt, and I adore it. All of it. Oh, right. Sorry, I was trying to keep... We were keeping 3 of those for an upgrade, right? Yeah, we need the pliers. Okay, that needs to get sold. That can go here. We'll take some batteries with us. Rotten mushroom. Damn it, I didn't get here fast enough. Okay, let me go put this stuff in the oven first, before anything else starts rotting. Let's get that going. We're still very, 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 very far away from leveling up, but that's okay. Sorry, I thought I heard somebody in the house. Yeah, no, this game has done so well as far as just kind of keeping you on edge the whole time, as well as making sure that, like, even when a bunch of stuff is going on, or even when nothing is going on, there's still so much to accomplish, and figure out, and that's really cool. I've really appreciated that. I want to sell this. These can go here. Pipe. I think that's everything that I want to get rid of. Okay. And we'll use the wardrobe as a place to store things that we want to sell to the trader, since this is where he lives. We have a bit of time. We can go ahead and start looking at the creepy house. I don't know that we'll get a ton of time to explore it, but that is okay, because we can start. We can see if we can even get in. Which is kind of important if you're trying to explore a place. see if you can get in. Right? I'm gonna go ahead and take those so I can put it with the other things once we get back. Also... Oh no. Ah! My guy! We're gonna die. Oh! Fuck. Shit, how did I manage that? Oh, my dude. Okay. Oh, Jesus, right? Oh, I don't have any gas on me, do I? Shit. Okay, that's fine. None of my keys fit. But are there any windows that I can get in through? Need to keep an eye on the time. It's 5 o'clock. I need to head back about a half an hour. I don't think there are any windows that I can bust through. Okay, so we can't go into the creepy house just yet. Unfortunate. That's okay. Let's go ahead and head back to the house. And then, despite the fact that we haven't been streaming for very long, I need to pee again. Sir. So we'll take a very, very short break. Once I secure myself in here. It's pee time. I've got such an old lady bladder. Normally, but especially today. I've been chugging water, trying to make up for yesterday. No, it doesn't really work that way, but I feel better about it. Let's leave that in there. We don't really need it, do we? You know what? Let's also... Only partially? Not enough. Gotta drink it. Have you considered drinking it? I think you should drink it. Okay, that's full. It's almost nighttime. We'll put this away. And, oh, what am I doing? I was about to just hunker down, but I need to turn on the generator. Generator means nothing if it's not on. Oh my goodness. Okay. And then we'll pause here. And we'll pee time. It's pee time, y'all. And I'm back. Trying to convince Lamia to go lay on the couch again. She saw me get up and was like, oh, it's time for you to pay attention to me? And it's like, no, Mama, that's incorrect. It's very intense music to come back to. It's fine. It's all fine. I was making sure that everything was where it needed to be. I mean, it's intense music to prep for nighttime too, right? It's scary. It's intense. Here we are. We're gonna make it happen. Ooh, excuse me. Hi, Stinky. Hello, Mama. This little goon cuddled me the entire time that I was just laying on the couch. It was very nice. Was she so greedy? Always so greedy. Okay. I hate nighttime. Still, to this day, just ugh. I like how the glasses are just a bit above her eyes. Just a little bit. Just like right there. She's a cool kid though. You wanna come here? Can't lay down when I go to pick you up, okay? Come here. Ugh. Here she is. Little bean. Oh, pfft. Don't punch me. The floppiest of cats. You know? Ugh. Ugh. You're just stomping all over me. Maybe. Game. Can you hear that? You're so wiggly. You gotta stop being so wiggly. Ah. Well, she is purring a lot. She's not nearly as loud as, like, Devo is. Why? Oh, I was like, why is there, like, a fog around me? And it's because I'm standing on top of one of the pipes. That would be why there's a fog surrounding me. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. No more nighttime, okay? Well, I guess while we're kind of waiting for things to happen, do we want to do the barn ruins or the hunter's house first? There's also this weird question mark area. Barn ruins, probably. They're closer, and we already have, like, a vague idea of what that house looks like. I think it has a generator in it. I should bring some gas with us. Jesus. My guy! I can hear somebody coming up from the left as well. Shit. Is he just... Dude, just... No! No! You're supposed to step on the trap! Fuck. Stop! Shit. Well, that's extremely unfortunate. There were like 4 dudes coming in. Even if I had managed to kill him, I don't think I would have been able to fend them all off. That sucked. Again, at least the worst that happens is I just drop my stuff. I need to re-barricade that, though. I'm gonna have... Oh, got a lot of work to do. Got a lot of work to do. Got a lot of things to take care of. Oh, he did set this one off. I wish I'd known. So, game always putting my stuff all in the wrong place. It's bad. It's very bad. Okay, I think we agreed that we're selling wedding rings. He only has 4 spots. I need to purchase something. What would be worth a purchase? Probably, well, I guess there's a couple things I could get. Like that and those. Probably I'm gonna be using a bunch of boards here pretty soon anyhow, right? Tubular magazine. I know I don't necessarily need to purchase all of this, but I think I would rather, like, stay on top of having extra. It's having too much stuff as opposed to not having enough. So let's take all this. We'll make another lockpick. And put that away, but I will make a couple of bear traps. Like, I've got the scrap to spare, so we might as well. That should be all I need for the time being. Hi, Lamia. Let's go ahead and put those there so I can just access them easily. Glad he didn't break the wardrobe, though. Hi, Bono! Snuggle up. It's time to get spooked. It's time for the spooky scaries. It's gonna be great. Can we... Let's put that there. Doesn't really work with the kind of sad, somber music we got going on. But we love us some spooky, scary skeletons. But hey, how's it going? How are you doing? Maybe it would be best to have it, like... No, because I don't want it too close to where I am, because I will step on that. 100% would step on it. That will be fine. Okay, let's push this out of the way. Step through here. How far in did they get? Not too terribly far, because this is still intact. Okay. Oh, I should do that from the outside. Oh no! Aww! Any good GM needs a break here and there, though. I get that. Also, I hope one of your, or whichever player it is that's feeling unwell, I hope they feel better soon. But hey, that just means you get to just chill out and relax all evening. Not necessarily a bad thing. Okay, so we got more barricades up. I should check the other side of the building. That chain trap is still in place. Good. Here's the other window. Yeah, let's go ahead and barricade. And that's one that we just replaced, right? Yeah. I get it. I understand. That one's fine. How is this one holding up? That one is also fine. Okay. Is it tabletop stuff? If so, what system do you do? I love hearing about people's campaigns. Aww. No, I mean, that's still fair. But yeah, go to sleep. My goodness. People gotta take care of themselves. Sorry, I'm like trying to get comfy in my seat. My my sweatpants are all like folded up on each other. Mutants and Masterminds. Nice. Excuse me. Oh, I have not played that one, but I have heard about it. Oof. I need some fabric. I don't have enough money with the trader to get any fabric, do I? Okay. We're gonna take some gas with us. And that's all I really need to do as far as setup is concerned, isn't it? Like, preparation for the evening. So let's go back. Superb, man. Nice. Here for it. Or I guess you could say superb. Alright, let's go to the barn ruins. See what terrible things are there. I've got my flashlight. I have batteries for it. We've got gasoline. Weren't there like a shit ton of dogs here? Or am I thinking of somewhere else? I might be thinking of somewhere else. Did the barn ruins lead into... Or was it the hunter's house? I mean, it's 100% just claimed by Forrest now. Nice! That's pretty dope. I'm mostly familiar with Dungeons and Dragons, and then a handful of Powered by the Apocalypse systems. Specifically Blades in the Dark, and... Sorry, that's a lot of noise. Specifically Blades in the Dark and Monster of the Week. Wolfman! Oh, it is. Oh, sorry. I was excited, and then I wasn't. It is Wolfman's house. Hi, buddy. Comrade. The greeting sounds like an angry growl. Excuse me, comrade. Wolf makes a quick leap and, bouncing against me with his swollen belly, puts his paws on my shoulder. He ostentatiously licks his face. What a gift have you given me? I notice fresh bloodstains on his fur and feel streaks of his saliva dripping onto my coat. He leans towards me, as if he wanted to say something to my ear. Push the wolf away or do nothing. Do nothing? The wolf squeezes my arms and starts licking my face, once from the left side, once from the right side. Comrade meets. It's Breath stinks of rot. What would I ever do without you? You're not such a worthless piece of carcass as you look. Thanks to you, I feel fulfilled. Nice. Got my girl, my sweet little lady back. Hard to believe the same blood flows through the veins of the bitch who reeks of chickens. Suddenly the wolf sends me back with a powerful push and reaches into his coat pocket. Some object hits the floor. Here, no need to thank me. Now, since that part of the deal is behind us, I'll help you recover your stupid key. I'll take you back to the doctor's house. I'm sure you'll find some clues on how to reach his current hideout while there. You two will have a little chat, you'll get back to what you've lost, and then nothing will keep you from getting the fuck out of my part of the woods. Do you get me, meat? You'll pack your bags, dive into that stinking hole of yours, and dis-a-fucking-peer. And? Are we going, comrade? Good, but remember, the woods are impatient. Are you okay? Hey bud, is it cool if I a half-eaten body of a deformed woman? A shawl? I bet I can show that to the chicken lady. I was like 100% expecting him to like show up in the doorway. That's the pretty lady. Yeah, 100%. Just it's exactly like Graveyard Keeper. I am concerned. I am so concerned. I gotta go. Sorry, I can like hear a dog out there. Shit. Okay, so we were right. That is... I don't think it's what we use the wolf's key on. It definitely wasn't ideal. Cool. So Wolfman is into taxidermy. Good for him. Big dog took out little dog. Big dog took out little dog. So what time is it? I guess we could go to the hunter's house. We got time. But we gotta... There's a bear trap there. Oh no! Compression socks should definitely help with that. Hey, at least it's I don't want to say a fix for it, but a fairly easy potential solution? Oh goodness. You mean I found a questionable location? What is this? That would be a good option. Guess give me the mushroom. What is this? Sit back, kick your feet up, get comfy. Oh, there's a boy over there. Is this the hunter's house? It is. Okay. Why does the hunter's house have all these, like, really gross areas around it? I put all of the gas into the wolf's hideout. Oh, no. Yeah, this game is very squelchy. It's very squishy. Makes many noise. Many much noise. Okay. Hello? Is that Devo? Or was that in-game? Okay. Not me panicking about everything. Stuffed dog. Trophy. Is that a mushroom man? I really just did not come in here at all, did I? Oh, I guess I did. It is Devo. Okay. No, that's Lamia. What the fuck? Devo? What is happening? What's happening? Also, can I just... It's a little bean. No, that wasn't an invitation. I'm sorry, I drew attention to you. Get up there, get comfy. No, go lay down. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Snare traps. What in the world? How do I get... What? I want to know what this is. I'm gonna hit him. What? Okay. That's fine. Shit. 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 I should have used a different weapon. But now we know what he is. It's getting late though, isn't it? I wouldn't know. I don't have a watch. Did he die in the end? Oh, what am I doing? So I figured out the way that the blood works is that he has to, or enemies have to walk over my blood. So when I get attacked, I drop like a pool of acid blood. And if they step onto that, that's what activates the acid damage. Because I know for a while we were trying to figure out, like... Thank you, Travis. Glad somebody was paying attention to the time. Yeah, because I know we were trying to figure out, like, how the acid blood worked, because there were times where it didn't seem like it was actually doing any damage. And I think it's just because they weren't stepping into the puddles of acid that I was dropping. Also, if it was close to about 1400, we've got more than enough time to get my shit. Because we're already here. Dog. Ouch. Dogs! This is bad! I'm gonna die because I got fucking poisoned! Damn it! Where were these dogs earlier? Like... I mean, it's been a while since we played, but even still... My corpse. Like, we were... You piece of shit. Well, we're gonna get a lot of experience. So that's exciting. Oh, fuck. I don't know where he is, but I hear him. There's a chomper, kids. There he is. You stay over there. No. No. I said stay over there. Dude! Are you shitting me? This is the most I've died this entire time. I hate everything. Get off! Get off! Come on! Oh my god. Well, it's probably getting to the point where it's gonna be nighttime soon, right? Upset. Genuinely upset. I don't have near enough time to, like, go... Let's go ahead and reload our gun. Please. Reload. All of my bullets are out in the wild, aren't they? Shit. Okay, well, it's a good thing we have a spare here. We're going with it. We're going for it. Let's fucking go. Still not quite orange out. What's the worst that's gonna happen? I die again? Oof. It's getting orange out. Well, there's a bug area here. That's unfortunate. Hi, dog. Come here. Come here, dog. Someone is angry down there. I've made a mistake. I'm too far north. Shit. There's a lad in there. That's not great. That's not great. Must return to the hideout before nightfall. Well, I need my body, first and foremost. I still have a body around here. Damn it! Shit. It's fine! It's fine. I don't care at this point. Whatever. That's a mushroom man! No! Mushroom man! Oh fuck. Shit! I think that's my house though. I think I'm at my house. I was basically at my house. It's too dark. I can't do it. Shit! Also, I think I picked up, like, an assault rifle? To which, I never had that. So that's a little disconcerting. Let's get rid of those mushrooms now. Also, let's put this here. And put that one there. Close the door. And we'll bunker. That sucked. That sucked. Everything about that sucked. My goodness. I didn't like any of that. Absolutely none of it. Well, that's not great. Dogs. Crap. I have no idea what time it is either. about half health. I mean, it's absolutely after 8. You're correct. It is after 8. Yikes. Did he just get bored? This dog fucking got bored. Nighttime starts at 8 o'clock. I hate this. And I have no means of making a Molotov. Shit. What is this goopy sound? What is this goopy sound? What is happening right now? They're just attacking my outside barriers. They're not even like coming through anymore. Hi, Nimbly.
Playing one of my fave games, UWU Eiley.
You like Darkwood? I love you too. Thank you. Thank you for the sub, friend. No. Fuck right on off, sir. Oh no! Oh no! Please! It's almost morning! I'm out of ammo and I died! Oh, you thought it was the forest? Valid. I also really like the forest. It's a good game. No, we're playing Darkwood. It's spooky and awful and oh shit. Same. I'm still shocked that you really like the forest, but it's a good game. But that's cool. Thank you for the lurk. Thank you for the sub, friend. Take care and I love you. Oh boy. Oh, sometimes spoopy. Sometimes spoopy is good. Sorry, that was unfortunate. Yeah, I have a hunting rifle. Good. I like playing spoopy games with people, hence why I just stream spoopy games all the time. Sorry, that sucked. Can we just take a moment to acknowledge how bad that was? Oh boy. Okay, we got a lot to repair. We got a lot to fix. Still need to go get my body. I want to know, like, where this hunting rifle came from. I didn't think I had picked one up. We're gonna dismantle you. You're useless. There's nothing there. We also need to start taking, like, getting more boards. We need more boards. Broke my doorway. I need more nails. Hey, trader. I don't have much, but do you want a toolbox? I got a toolbox. Do you want a hunting rifle? You can have my hunting rifle. There's those for you too. Hold on. I might have other stuff to sell. We might have some garbage in here, because I got a lot of toolboxes, right? I don't need nearly as much tape as I have. Also, could probably do away with some matches. Let's get rid of this bread and this antidote. Guess I can get rid of this welder, too. There! Oh, they broke everything! Like, everything! Fuck! Okay, give me this. And these. And these. And those. And... let's do that as well. Guess I can buy these two. Except... I don't think we, like... I don't feel like we need to level up. But it's been... fairly helpful as far as, like, the story is concerned. We're getting, like... we got something from the last level up that we did, right? So... it might benefit us to continue to level up. I'm sure we'll get reach a cap at some point, but until then... let's go ahead and make a lockpick. Don't really need the gas on me, but I'll put it there anyhow. I can't make any more hotbar? Okay, tell Allie I love her. Go do the thing. Pick up Allie. Okay, so I just bought this fabric for no reason. That's cool. Love that for me. Oh, goodness. Okay. Well... I should use this bear trap somewhere nearby. Probably, like, here? Probably here. Hi, Fruity! That's okay. That's fine. It happens. How goes it? How are you doing? Everything is bad here. Everything is absolutely terrible here. We've done it so bad. Everything there is fine. This is okay. I have died more times in the last hour than I have collectively between all of our other playthroughs on the channel and our playthroughs together. And it sucks. It's not great. We've done it bad. I need more fucking nails! Oh no. Clearly, absolutely. Try not to. Always acquire shoe dirt. Always. No, so we need to go make a couple of body runs. Oh, please, door. Got a couple of body runs. Did I find out what the scary red light does? No? No. We have not encountered the red light again. Thank God. Did not like the red light. We did talk to... we talked to the chicken lady. We got chomped a lot, basically, yeah. Making sure we're still here. We explored the barn ruins a bit more. We did find... It is confirmed that that's Wolfman's house. Because he and the pretty lady were there. Pretty lady is now a corpse. Oopsies. We showed the chicken lady the chicken head that we got last time. And she was just like, oh, an ill omen! And that was it. To which it was like, do you have any more to say about this? And she didn't. I now have a bloodied shawl from the pretty lady. I want to go show that to chicken lady at some point. I can hear him stomping around. And my body's here somewhere. Pretty sure. Pretty sure my body's here somewhere. Is that it? No. Where the heck did I die? But yeah, we explored the barn ruins a bit more. There's my body. There's the mushroom man. Okay. Sorry, brain. It's difficult to brain today. We got chased by a lot of mushroom men. That was unfortunate. And then there were dogs. There were surprise dogs outside the hunter's house. After we tried to leave there. They were not there before, and then suddenly they were. Fucking mushrooms. So that was unfortunate. Surprise dogs, they get you every time. We've had a couple of rough nights. Some of the nights were a little difficult. And, yeah. I did get an assault rifle, or a hunter's rifle. I sold it because there was no, what was I gonna have? What was I gonna do with it? The surprise dog's still here. There was also a chomper around here. Dog. Dog! Yeah, it's been a rough go of things this time. But that's okay. I feel like it's making up for how much progress we made last time, you know? It's been... Yeah. It's been a minute since that's happened. But yeah, how are you doing, Ferdy? How are things? Hi. Tell me it's been better for you. There's a dog. Where the fuck is my shit? Like, where is my stuff? Surprise! Did daylight savings happen? Is that what's going on? Ferdy, what time is it for you right now? It's 7:37 here. We have to do some science. Quick. midnight? Oh! Okay, we are 5 hours different now. That is an hour different than usual. Clock's changed. Saturday night, Sunday morning. I hate it. So wait, your guys' clock changed? I'm so bad at keeping track of, like, daylight savings and all that nonsense. UK, okay, okay. Hate it. Hate it. I think ours change in a week? Soon-ish, I believe. So then we'll be back to our normal times. Until then, it's gonna be garbage. Where is my stuff? Oh my god. I just want my belongings. My freaking... My watch is in the stuff that I lost. That exactly. Correct. Fuck off, dog. I am not in the mood to play. No! Fucking hell. Reasons. Fucking sick of this. I just want my shit back. That's all. I just want my shit back. I don't want to fight these fuckers. I just want my shit back. That's all. Game, where is my shit? Oof. Excuse me while I just get tilted. For no reason. Chomper, no chomping! Annoyed! I am so frustrated. It's fine. I just want my goddamn watch. Okay. If I can find the first body, then it is almost directly east of the other body. These are not tough. I guess. Again, I just want my stuff. That's all. Rain. So it's down a little bit. But in this general area? This seems wrong. This seems really wrong. This seems incorrect. Where is my body? Hydrate time. We need rain inside of us, I guess. Not that song. Fruity, not that song. Please, not that song. Please, anything but that song. Fuck off. Always leaving cake out in the rain. I just want my shit. I wasn't anywhere near it! Okay, so... it's closer than the old one. The one on the east is it was what I thought the new body was, but apparently that's the old one. So if I can figure out where my shit was before... Please. Game. Hi, Rabbit. I haven't seen one of you in a while. I am annoyed. Beyond belief right now. Just get me out of this bad mushroom forest. I don't even care. The rain is not helping. It's all bad all the time. Please, mushrooms, I swear to God, if you kill me. Okay. Thunder! Okay, there's my body, right? With all my nearly spoiled odd meat. I need to go up and to the right. Where? Can I do that stupid scream? No. Where is my stuff? Like, where is it? Please? I know where it is. Found it. Get rid of that. I don't need it. Found my things. Let's go. Health? Do I have any healing items? There they are. Things get. Let's go home. Let's never come back to the hunter's house, okay? Okay. Glad we can agree upon that. Let's go. Good lord. That was a not so fun detour. Did not like that. Would not recommend. Game, I need to be able to see, and I can't. I like how there's just this path of destroyed mushrooms where you can see I have clearly been. Like, yep, that's where Kayshurr's run. Good job, good job, good job. I'd like to get back to the house before it becomes nighttime. And before all my things spoil, so I can maybe get something worthwhile from this entire horrible experience. Is this home? Please be home. It's home. Thank God. Beautiful. Lovely. We're here. And it, yeah. No, for real? For real. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Goodness gracious, it's fine. Let's put all the weird odd meat in there. I had 2 things spoil. 3 things. 1, 2, 3 mushrooms. Beautiful. Love that. Here for it. Perfect. But hey, we're halfway to another level. Yay. I'm just gonna put all the spoiled shit in here. This is where it lives now. Decided. Okay, can we organize our inventory just a little bit? Maybe. Possibly. Is that okay? These need to go outside. This stays with us. This goes in our inventory. Fabric. Do I really not have anything to sell? Okay. Well, we're gonna sell these. Because apparently I don't need them anymore. Let's make another lockpick. We'll put some nails away. Could probably sell some of these pipes too, honestly. Don't think I need nearly as many as I have. Let's make a couple of bear traps. Guess I can sell that too. Okay. I could. You know what? Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. I could. And I should. We are stuff rich. Facts though. We'll see about it. No, we'll do it. I'll do it, but I'll wait. I like to try and keep, like, at least some of everything, but I have so much stuff, and we don't need nearly as much as we have. But I'm at the point where I need nails constantly. And so, pretty much anything that I don't need, I've just been selling so I can buy nails. And with me not surviving the nights lately, it's felt a lot more necessary. Let's go ahead and reload our gun. Let's... Are you shitting me already? What are these bad sounds? Let's go ahead and... Yeah, let's do it. Fuck it. Let's do it. Let's just go ahead and do it. Let's just make a shotgun. Let's just go. I'm so annoyed with all these things. The nights are getting extremely difficult. Like, we thought they were bad before, but there's just an onslaught, and they're here so early. Dog. Fuck off, dog! Jemsta! Hello! Thank you for the raid! Hello, Angry. How's it going? How's everyone doing? Things are rough here right now. There's 2 dogs. That's why that was so bad. Well, welcome. Hello, my name is Kayshurrr. I'm an LGBTQ+ streamer who focuses on horror and mystery games. We are currently playing a game called Darkwood. Everything is bad. I have no nails to fix any of the shit that they just broke. Fucking hell. So excuse me while we try and handle all the bad stuff coming our way. It's all good. Whenever friends can show up, you know? You know? But, thank you for recommending me to your buddy. I appreciate it. Put that bear trap down. Let's do yet another bear trap. It's almost morning. So annoyed with these animals. I'm so annoyed with these animals. But yeah, can we get a shout out for the Jamsta, please? Be morning, please and thank you. I need to buy me some nails. Thank you, Fruity. Oh shit, doing some Serious Sam? I haven't thought about that game in ages. Fun times. It's all good, it's all good. Look, as long as you're fine with me reminding you, I don't mind doing that. Hi, Allie. Welcome, friend. Thank God. Okay. Jesus Christ. Serious Sam is Pajama Sam's older brother? Okay. Last couple of nights have been really rough. They've not been great. Oh, I need to remember that I put a bear trap there before I run into it. My goodness. There too. It happens. But it's all good. Can we... I just want this bear trap. Game. Just let me dismantle the bear trap. Thought I saw it. Okay. Well, whatever. It's fine. Well, if they don't show up, the next time you see them, let them know that I appreciate... Ah! There we go! Hi, Jamsa! Thank you for the raid, friend. Welcome in. It's all good. Raids are a little weird when you're first starting out. But welcome. Thank you for the raid. We're happy to have you here. What am I doing? Sorry. I'm thinking about too many things all at once. It's fine. I do like buying this egg any chance we get. So let's do that. I'll accept the trade. And we will fix the doorway. And then once we fix it, we'll open it. Oh, it was there for a second. Bear trap, there we go. My goodness. But yeah. Thanks for bringing your friends over. We appreciate it. Let's close this window up. It's still raining and I hate it. Close. Let's go ahead and put the meat and the egg in there. Look at that. We're getting real close to leveling up again. Heck yes. And then we'll sell all of this. I do love me some Phasmophobia. I am a fairly busy human being, unfortunately, because school is keeping me stressed out all the time. But yeah, feel free to hit me up, and if I am available and free, I would gladly join. Can we... I'm trying to think of what... Excuse me, sorry. Bolt handle, handgun frame. I will buy the small caliber magazine, because I think it's just good to have. We got lots of reputation to kind of go through. Let's go ahead and buy some more health items as well. Sorry, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I need, and I don't think so. Okay. That was everything I wanted to sell. Cool. We need to... Of course, they broke the bear trap again. Need more nails. Always need more nails. Forever need more nails. Let's go ahead. Break the boards down. I do have enough wire to make another lockpick, so I should do that. Just want some nails. That's all. Let's... Let's do a couple of traps. Since I can't board up the window like I want. Right? How many lockpicks can I hold at a single time? 5? Okay. Sorry, I usually do the typical spiel, but Jamsta wasn't here just yet. You've been streaming for a while, I assume. If you need to go, take care of yourself, get some food, do a walk. Trying Drink some water or something. We will be here for a while. I usually stream for 3 hours in the evening. So, and I've only been here, well, I guess for 2 hours now? But we'll be here for at least an hour. But yeah, take care of your dang self. It's important. Put that there, I guess. Thank you, Allie, for getting that self-care shout out there. Sorry, I'm like deep in thought right now, trying to figure out like how to freaking protect my base at night. I think that's good enough. Stick's about to break, and that's going to be extremely unfortunate. We'll go ahead, do this. Let's sell the nearly broken stick. Okay. And now, to figure out where we're going. I need to stretch myself, hold on. Oof. Okay, so Wolfman has offered to take us to the doctor's hideout. So we can do that. Otherwise, we can try and explore the church. Because we also need to find the key for the black box that we have, which Wolfman has also recommended we hang out with him for, right? So do we do the church or the doctor first? Probably the church. Probably the church. Got 2 things of pills on me. God, it's so dark. Let's swap out pills for bandages. I don't know what the steering wheel is for. That's fine. So I'm trying to like reorganize everything. It's fine. Yeah, let's try and go to the church. See what's up there. I would love it if the rain stopped. Don't imagine it will anytime soon, though, so that's unfortunate. But oh well. Let's go. Uffa duffa. Kidding me? Come on! I can't see shit, Rain! She's gonna just be really salty at this game tonight. Kidding me. Just let me get through the trees. And I will continue to yell at the rain. Has the rain considered stopping? Take that as a no. Rain is bad. Rain is garbage. Old woman yells at rain. It's me. I just... dying that many times in a row over seemingly silly things made me really salty, but it's fine. We're back on track now. We'll be fine. I'm just sick of all these mushrooms. Stupid forest. Where is it? There's dog. Dog, go! from me, dog. It's so dark. No! Oh. Right, no chomps. Please, no chomps. I like how the Isaac emote just constantly says no to you. Sorry, graveyard? It's just like my dream! Look at how many man in hole! Look at how many man in hole indeed! You know what? It would be raining. So many candles. My little girls. So many candles, so many flowers. A red one, a green one. Coward, thief. Go under the floor where you belong. There's a shovel blade. Do I don't have any gas on me, do I? I don't. Shit. And there's like nothing in there. Electronic game. Aw. Gonna leave those there for now. $3, $9, $10. Kiss them for me. Excuse me? Oh my god. I hate it down here. No! No! Shit! Shit! Fuck! Oh, I hate everything about that! Okay. Yeah, it's bad there. Note to self! It's real bad there. Okay, what can I don't have anything for Molotovs. This is so frustrating. What did I lose? A lot of really good stuff. I do have my watch, though. Yikes, 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 yikes. There were at least 3 chompers. See, I can cope with that death. Because we're in a new area. And there were a lot of chompers. Fuck off! Get away from me. Just go away. There were at least 2 on your corpse. Yeah. And I blew one away. I think there was another one aside from the one that I killed. Dog, don't. Don't do it, dog! I am basically dead. What the fuck? Go away! Why are there so many chompers? Yeah, I do kind of regret taking the poison con that we did. But like, none of them were great. They were all really shitty. Just let me get in here. Okay. I thought that the shotgun would only let me shoot the once, but it will shoot twice, which makes sense, I guess. Right, yeah, no, the higher poison damage was fine for a majority of the game, but now we're at a point where it's like, no, it really is sort of a bad situation if you get got. Well, that's a thing. Can't talk to him. Hi, Sarah. This fucking blows. Fuck, I missed. Trixie just had to say hi. Hi, Trux. Oh my god, I don't want to be down there. Okay. This is exceedingly unfortunate because I will get attacked and stumble backwards and then immediately go up into the stairs. What ult does this light up? This lights up the downstairs, doesn't it? Okay, let's take this. Let's take this. Have a good one, Sarah. We'll see you later, friend. It would behoove us to probably find some empty bottles so that we can make some Molotovs. I think that's probably the best way to handle this situation. The downside being, I don't know where I can get any bottles. You know what? Yeah, no, for real. We're gonna set it all on fire, and it's gonna be great until it's not. Can I get into this house? This is where the house is, right? Well, this is the general vicinity of the house. Hi, Dougie! How's it going, friend? Well, at the very least, we're getting some more mushrooms. I guess that's nice. Yeah, it's not going great here, but that's okay. This isn't good. Key to the burned house. Flickr magazine. Aside from it going bad here, in-game, I'm doing pretty alright. We are getting chomped a lot. That's not fantastic. I like how we've got this, like, image of a perfect little house, and then when we actually, like, pan over it, it's just in absolute disrepair. Key. We are back in the dry meadow. We've made it, y'all. We've come full circle. What is this place, though? It's like our first ever wheelies. Oh no. Why is it so bad over here? Okay, well, let's leave. Let's go. Let's just go. Oh yeah, Dougie, you were streaming earlier today, weren't you? You got a new schedule because you got a new job? Is that right? Or am I just making shit up? I very well could be making things up. Oh dang. How was it? How do you like streaming in the middle of the day? Also, thank you, Allie, for getting the shout-outs out there. If y'all don't follow these folks, you're missing out. I think pretty much everyone here follows everyone, though. Yes! I think I'll be able to tune in more often if you do more afternoon streams, which I'm excited about. I know it doesn't work for everyone, but like having like a solid schedule for streaming is so very nice. Oh, I should head back. It's late. Oh no, it's late. I wanted to look over here though. Dog chomper. Chomper dog. Too many enemies. We gotta go. I would like to not have to run everywhere anymore. If we considered... I don't have any lockpicks! I lost them down in the basement, didn't I? Okay. Alright. Dog. More dog. What is this? The hunter's cabin? I think that's a chomper inside that house, so we're just not gonna bother with that at all. Don't want to be here. Runner! Please. Please. This is not fantastic. That's just one of the crazy men. Okay. I might be, but this isn't. We're not a fan of this situation we're finding ourselves in. I do want to go back to the village at some point to, like, talk to... to talk to the chicken lady again. Wait, this is the creepy house. I went too far south. Dang it. Dog! Dog! Unacceptable. Unacceptable. Okay, it's fine. I know, I'm watching the time. It's fine. Fuck off, dog! See? It's fine. We made it. Everything's fine. It's all fine. And look, I can still access the oven, which is great, because I have shit I need to get rid of. Woof! It's fine! Not even concerned. That's a cell. I'll keep that, I guess. I mean, yeah, it was very nearly an oof. But it wasn't an oof. So it's fine! That dog just got. That dog just got. I love spending an awful night inside my awful house. With all the awful things around me. It's my favorite. I am gonna sell the rope. Because why the fuck not? Yeah, but you guys can't help me with the terrible situation I'm in. And now there's bugs. And now there's bugs. And now we have bugs. Get away from me. That one just opened up. What was that sound? No. Oh! Oh! Okay, I'm trying to get out into the light. Whoa! 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 No! Whoa! Fuck off! What the shit? That's the shadow thing? Fuck off! I got stuck on the motherfucking wall. That squiggle killed me when you were stuck in the corner. Oh no! That was bad! That was all bad! This house sucks for the ghosts! I hate everything that's happening here. None of it is great. No, 100%. That was all just they just screwed me over in that whole situation. Wow, that was bad. Yeah, I'm just dying tonight. No money for me. Unfortunate. I want the money, though. Not that he has anything that I like. I mean, he's got nails, and I need that. It wasn't you this time, Bunno. It was Travis. Oh, I'm just like... It's just bad. This is just bad. This is a bad situation we found ourselves in. I'm kind of regretting not keeping... Not keeping all those glass bottles I was selling. Honestly. Because I need those to make Molotovs if I want to make Molotovs from gas instead of... You know what? I could just stay... We could just stay back in the dry meadow now that I've opened up the house. I don't have any... Yeah, might have been good to keep, but that's fine. It's fine. I don't think I have anything boarded up there, though, is the thing, and that is a bit of a problem. Okay. But it might be easier to survive over there. Let's go ahead and make a lockpick. I have gas. What of this should I take with me? I'll leave... Oh, ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha. This is fine. I'll leave a lot of this here. I'll take the really important stuff with me. We'll have some gas here for... Bunch of goobers is what you are. Whole heckin' lot of goobers here. I won't get nearly as much reputation for staying in the dry meadow as I would here. But that's okay. But I think that's probably like the safest option right now. Whoa! Whoa, 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 whoa! Excuse me? I don't like it! Why is it... Why did the bugs goop me? I don't have a Molotov, though. Do you see my dilemma? Okay. Let's... You know what? Let's do this. Yeah, we're moving. 100%. We're out of here. No room in my inventory. Whatever. I don't even give a shit. We're gonna go the long way because I do want to stop by the village again. To show the shawl to the lady, to the chicken lady, and maybe find some supplies on our way. We still can't get in here, which is unfortunate. Creepy house is still off limits. Oh, I wonder if I could have shown the shawl to the kid in the silo. Oh, I still have a chance to. He's further south. Why did I think he was in the old woods? Who knows? It's fine. So we'll stop by to see the musician kid. Ask him about stuff. Okay, so Wolfman just lives... Wolfman just lives in the barn ruins now. He's abandoned camp. Noted. I think there's some glass bottles still in the village, maybe? I can hope. Oh my god, you're fine. You don't need to be breathing as hard as you are. He wouldn't address it, but it's 100% his. He's created that monsters. He's really into taxidermy. Please, it's so dark. Why is there a little X by that camp? Sorry. Oh, there's one at the other one too. Okay, I think that's just part of the camp icon. There was like a little X in front of the tents. But I think that's just how it looks. No! No, I don't think so. Maybe you had... I don't have any room in my inventory. I don't have enough for chicken nuggets. Bear Trap lives here now. Not me being angry about everything. Don't have enough for chicken nuggets. You're an elk. I was wondering why it looks so... Don't have enough money for chicken nuggets. Can we... I've gone too far south. I just want... Fuck off, dog! I will end you. I'm not in the mood for your nonsense today, dog. Okay. He is still here. I can hear his terrible violin playing. I mean, I would much rather take a regular dog over the big dogs. But, if there were just no dogs, that'd be great, too. Boy stops playing and lowers his head, avoiding my sight. Oh, you want to look at the electronic game? What's this little box? My lady's sister, she also has these fancy wee chickens. They lay eggs too, but my lady's sister doesn't want to share them with anyone. Boy turns the game in his hand for a while, but he can't find a way to reach the buttons with his overgrown fingers. Game slips out of his hand and drops to the ground. The wannabe musician freezes. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. It's fine. The sight of the blood-soaked shawl has clearly made the boy anxious. Takes a step back and lowers his head, even more than usual. This is not mine, mister. Are you sure? Okay. I need to go. I need to go. Village time. This is a bit unfortunate. Mostly because... You know what? Let's do... I should have done this already, but... Or I should have done this with the other one, but it's fine. We'll set the bear trap, and then we'll disarm it. We don't get nearly as much scrap back as we used to make it, but it does clear up an inventory spot, so we can start picking up other things as well. Specifically, rags, because I did not bring any with me. Get away from me. You know what? No. Come here. Actually, come here. Oh, you're not dead! But I want that. But I want it. That dude's just throwing rocks. Okay. Frickin' heck. It's fine. Let's go show the shawl to Chicken Lady. And then we'll go back to the dry meadow. Try and reestablish ourselves there. Make it through the night and then probably call it quits for the night. Oh no. Oh no. I gotta though, Dougie. I've been streaming for almost 3 hours. I'm sorry. I'm still sleepy from yesterday. It's true. You know what? Yeah, you're right. Quitting is for quitters. I'm a fucking quitter. Don't worry about it. Hey, Chicken Lady. What do you need, poor soul? Hungry, eh? Give you some stew, but what good will it do? Oh, lordy, lordy! Lady crosses herself 3 times. Okay, what is this? Remove the growths using a sterilized knife, washed in spirits or boiled. In case the wounds or ulcerations open, put bean seeds inside. Under no circumstances untie hands and legs. In case of emergency, you'll find the path to my home in the western edge of the old woods. Okay. Lady my sister's, where did you find it? It's all that godless quack's fault. Devil brought him. All he did was prescribe this and that, scribble this no-good drivel. To hell with them papers. Lady throws a dirty, crumpled piece of paper at me. Okay, so she knows her sister's dead. She is aware that her sister is dead. So that's how you would get the directions to the doctor's house if you gave the key to the kid instead. I assume she still ends up dead. Okay. Well, that's interesting. I want to say there were some bottles in the house. Maybe I did leave a bunch of stuff here. None of my keys fit. Oh, right. You know what, you're right. Pretty lady probably does just have to die, because nothing nice can ever happen here. Ooh. I don't have any space for anything. Don't have enough space for anything. Sad. Let's just hop the fence and let's get out of here. Okay. Well, I guess it's back to the dry meadow with us. It'll be nice to, like, be set up there for the time being. Just because it's, like, directly south of the church. I don't have to run through a whole bunch of Chomper territory to get there. And yeah. Wolfman's a bit further away now. I'm concerned. Fuck off, dog. I am not here for your shit today, dog. Dog! Idiot dog set off the mushrooms. I am hurting so badly. Eat. Please, just let me through. Just let me through. Hi, Piotrek. I love you. I hope you're doing great in space. He does have a... You know what? He does have a workstation in here. Game. Everything's frozen on me. That's cool. What the hell is going on with my computer? Hang on a second. Hey, computer. Are we good? Well, I'm glad it was working for you guys. Hold on a second. to bring chat back up. Oh. There you are. There you are. Okay. Well, let's continue on. Workbench. That's what I was trying to do. What can I make? I don't have any matches on me. I didn't think to bring any fucking matches. Oh my god. Everything is bad. And I left the bell at the other hideout. So we're gonna have to go back at some point. Might be worth it to go back now. We're so close. Well, we're not even really that close. We're halfway to both places. We're just gonna go to the dry meadow. We're going home. And then I'll deal with the lack of supplies in a bit. Maybe that'll be a future Kayshurrr problem. Oh, hi, old home. I don't miss you. Do you have anything in here? You don't. Okay. You were also a pain in the ass to survive in. Didn't appreciate it. Didn't like that. Mushroom Man, no! What are you doing? What are you doing? I was trying to open up my skill menu, and I hit tab instead of Q. I hate Mushroom Man, and I hate his little giggles. His little I need him to not do that. Okay. Hi, haven't been here in a minute. You still really bad here? Yeah, you are. Get away, bugs. This place is infected with something toxic. I need to find a way to get rid of it. Or you could just run through it, like we've been doing. Do you have a spot open for supplies? What are you? Locked. None of my keys fit. Did I never get in here? I don't have the time, the patience, or the supplies to, like, break that door down. It might be. It is. No, I don't want this meat. I don't want this meat. Dead bug. Okay, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah, code's the same. I thought it would be funny if I typed in the code that we knew from the first game. And then it was the same. And we were like, oh. Okay. And it was great, because then I didn't have to waste my time trying to break open a door that didn't need to be broken open. You know? Funny. There it is. same. It's not something I ever thought I would say. But same. Man, back when it was easy to just get some odd meat, the worst that you had to do was just run around for a while. And just random corpses? I miss that too. I want this. Wow. I remember when this place was terrifying. Not anymore. What fond memories I have of the dry meadow. Alright. Right? Well, that we know of. Okay, we're gonna have to barricade. I mean, I trust Meadow more than I trust some of the other places we've been. Light the oven. The oven is lit again. It's not a lot, but I don't want it to... Like, there's no way for me to get back to the other oven in time, right? So I might as well use what I got here. Barricade. Don't have enough. It's unfortunate. We'll keep one of these on us. Oh my god, how do I usually organize this? I had a stack of boards split up in a way that... Oh my god. Okay, that's cool. Whatever. Hold on, sorry. Trying to quickly organize everything. We've got a little bit of time. It's fine. Put these together. More scrap. Extra health items. Repair my board. Let's... Oops. Oops. Ah! I still have a chain trap out here! Remember when that was, like, the ultimate strat? Oh, and you're practically entirely full! One of the few times that past me actually did it good. Wowee. Oops. Right? When the enemies got too smart for us. I'm not gonna waste the gas in there. Oops. Whoa, a little bit aggressive there, buddy, but okay. Can we... I should keep this on me. I'm gonna take a full one for the church. Right? Can I... chain trap? Don't like it when the music suddenly, like, disappears. Chain trap there. Come on, bud. You can do this. You can do this a little faster, okay? Chain trap there. Really getting in touch with our roots right now, aren't we? Drink that. Chain trap. Chain trap. We'll chain trap here. And then... Right, I don't have a door there. Right, forgot. Oh, hold on. And then we'll... chain trap here. Perfect. We'll make it through this night, and then we'll call it quits there. Beautiful. I feel good about this. I am a little concerned that the choppers can show up here. You know? But there's only one way to find out. Easy game, easy life. Absolutely. Perfect. Here for it. Everything's fine. You can hear somebody wandering around. I wish. Yeah, somebody's stomping. What are you? That's a flare, right? Why is someone throwing a flare down? I can hear him, but I can't see him. They're having a party. Terrible theme. Don't like that. Okay, which one of you is going out? That one. That one's going out. Flare is gone. You know what? I can handle this. This, not even an issue. And look, it's like 5 o'clock already. Thought I heard the door open. Look, y'all should be gone. Okay. That one was actually kind of hard to tell, like, which light was going out. What is that? Oh, is that the workbench? This one over here? Oh, you can't really see it. That sparking one? It's gotta be. Easy peasy! I haven't been this relaxed during a nighttime. Ever. Right? No, same. I was absolutely expecting it to be more difficult. Still. Didn't even need to kill anyone. None of my traps went off either. You know what? Like, I know I'm getting half as much as I would elsewhere. That's fine. Like, 100%. That's fine. I have so much left over. It's totally okay. Let's go ahead and... Do I want more boards? Yes. Yes, I do. Except... Wowee. Look, if every night could be like that, that'd be great. I would love that. Let's make another lockpick. Guess let's put that there. That's usually where I put it anyway. We'll keep the gas there. Oh, I should buy more ammo from him. I know we're gonna, like, the plan for Wednesdays to get my stuff back, right? But I should still have some. Oh, absolutely, yeah. No, it's, with how much easier it is, taking half the rep is still a considerable win. And I've been finding enough, like, random stuff that I don't need for any reason that I'm completely willing to just, like, take the loss, which it really isn't. It's fine. It's great. Let's put these away. Let's quickly repair some stuff. I think that's the only thing that I needed to fix. Yeah, because we have that covered up. Everything else is barricaded. We have all of the traps that we need set up for the time being, aside from the one that I put outside the door, but that's an at nighttime sort of thing. And I'm up on nails. I am gonna save the egg for the other house. What we'll probably do next time is... I know he just saved. Or, no he didn't. Never mind. I need to go talk to him. Okay. And that saves. Beautiful. We will probably go back to the old woods house, grab the last of the supplies, use the oven there to put the egg in, because we get a lot more, substantially more experience at that one. Come back to the dry meadow, drop everything off, make some Molotovs, and then depending on the time, go to the church and get our stuff back. That's the plan for Wednesday. But until then, let's find a friend to raid. Who do we got? So many folks. Let me get those raid messages up real fast. Boop. Fantastic. Who do we want to go say hi to? I've got Mrs. Kiwi doing some DBD. ATM Zero doing some Rocket League. Faye and Kester and Corey are doing Life is Strange. True Colors, the new one. Lollyflux is doing some Xenoblade Chronicles. Princess Meezy's doing some Valorant. And Hugh Chu is doing some Tales of Arise. Thoughts, opinions, feelings, suggestions on new friends? Oh, not the hiccups. Yawns. Oh, God. Y'all want to go say hi to Fade, Kester, and Corey? It's been a minute since we've seen them. It's been a long minute. I think they took a really long break. But they're back now. Boop. You just want to yell at someone? You can probably yell at them. Yeah. Let's go hang out with FQK Gaming. Ready to hoot and holler? Oh no. Well, they're doing Life is Strange. You can hoot and holler about their choices, if that makes it any better. As always, thank y'all for being here and hanging out. Sorry I was so salty earlier. Died a lot. It's fine. But we will be back on Wednesday with more Graveyard Keeper and more Darkwood. Until then, take care of your dang selves. I love ya, and we'll see you later.